Failure is not an option. How many times have you heard it? However, even the best have failed. This is Fail, Inspiring Resilience, where we celebrate stories of vulnerabilities, adversities, and strength, shared by exceptional people to create a more resilient society. Because failure is indeed not an option, it is required to succeed.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fail, Inspiring Resilience, live all together at home. My name is Francesco, and I am the president of Fail, and I'm extremely excited to be here today. We have an incredible event. We have an incredible guest. But first of all, I want to introduce you another special guest that we have tonight, somebody that has been with us for a long time. Her name is Kirsty Bennett, and she's the manager of the MIT Women's League. She also started MIT Tell. She's a storyteller. She's an amazing person, and she hosted most of our first events that happened at MIT. So welcome, Kirsty, on board, and I'm very glad to have you as a host today to our event. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Francesco. So here at Fail, we are all about the tough stuff, the stuff you don't usually share. Whether it's a rejected research proposal or an accidental reply all, we all fail. And our first instinct is often to hide it, to bury it, and to just move on. But what if, in doing so, we're missing out on some of life's most important lessons? And what if there's a way to sit in our discomfort and maybe find out something new about ourselves in the process? So here at Fail, we welcome speakers to come and share their worst moments, the times they look back on and cringe, and then tell us what they learned. So today we're going to be taking questions and comments from the audience throughout this event. So whatever platform you're watching on, feel free to add a question at any time to our chat on whichever platform, and we will see them. And at the end of our conversation with today's guest, we will have room to answer your questions. So tonight, we are thrilled to welcome Nick Santonastasso. Nick is an inspirational keynote speaker, an internationally known bodybuilder, a model, a master of a whole bunch of sports and outdoor pursuits that you have not had the courage to try yet. And Nick is also only one of 4 people alive with a rare genetic disorder, Hanhart syndrome. He's missing both of his legs and one of his arms, and he is a man who is constantly defying the odds. We have a video to show you now so that you can learn a little bit more about Nick.
The doctors classified me with Hanhart syndrome. Are you ready to challenge the impossible?
My name is Nick Santonastasso. Nick Santonastasso.
Welcome back to Max Out with Ed Milet. This man to my left, I think, is one of the most inspiring people on planet Earth today.
Welcome to Beijing.
At the time of my birth, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And out of the 12, 8 of them have passed away due to undeveloped organs.
Like any other 12-year-old, Nick Santonastasso enjoys football, skateboarding, and playing video games. And while these may sound like simple everyday activities, for Nick, they are anything but. He is one boy who defies the odds.
It's not about how many times we fall down. It's about how many times we get up and keep moving forward.
And an unbelievable public speaker, for the record, that you're going to hear about in a minute. But this is Nick Santonastasso.
Have you ever felt like you were invisible? Have you ever felt like you weren't good enough? Raise your hand if at least one time in your life you said, "Why me?" Look around the room. It's everywhere. We all get a taste of that victim mentality, but why me? Why do I have to be born like this? Why do I have to be born with no legs and one arm? Why do the kids have to make fun of me? Why do I have to go through these challenges? What I've realized over the 23 years of my life, it's not the physical body that holds us back, but it's the mindset. The biggest disability you can have is a bad mindset.
Yeah.
Welcome, Nick.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, we're extremely excited to have you here, and it's just an unbelievable experience for us, and we're so excited to have a chance to talk to you today. Yeah. So, like really, before everything else, I wanted to say something because Nick, so you have an Italian last name, okay? So I heard your name pronounced by Kirsty today. I heard your name pronounced by so many other people during the video, and I think nobody's pronouncing it correctly. You want to hear it from an Italian guy. You want to hear it from me.
Yeah. I think I think Christy did great, by the way. That was a great pronunciation. And so, yeah, Santonastasso. And that's usually like the biggest challenge that people have when I come to an event. They're like, dude, how do you say your last name? I've been practicing it over and over again. So yeah, you did great, Christy.
Thank you very much.
Exactly. So it's Santonastasso for everybody, and pronounced in very exact Italian words. So, but
I like
Nick,
it.
yeah, that's amazing. So you have Italian origins, right? So like, is your last name? It's not a case, right? It's not. Well, yeah. What are your origins?
Yeah, so my origin is Sicilian, so it's from Italy, and then so I am Italian and Portuguese, and so my dad is all Italian, and then my mom has Portuguese, and so I am a combination of both with this amazing last name that I plan on keeping on forever.
Exactly, absolutely right. So have you ever actually been to Italy?
No, I haven't yet, and we had mentioned that's one of the goals for me is to go to Italy and live there for at least 6 months to a year, and learn the language. And that's the best way to learn things is full immersion, right? It's like some of us, may have got taught Spanish in high school, but you got taught Spanish 1 hour every day for a year, and you probably don't remember much Spanish. But if I would have dropped you off in Spain for 6 months, you're definitely going to know how to speak Spanish by the end of that 6 months. And so that's the best way to learn the language and best way to dive deep into the culture and the food. So, and the food's most important. I like Italian food.
So Francesco, as our resident native Italian speaker, can you say it for me one more time how you would say it?
So it's Santonastasso. And it's very important, the 2S. You need the 2S because it's a double letter. You guys just don't have it. I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah, but I mean, just talking about traveling to Italy, it makes me miss a little bit traveling because nobody's really traveling recently. So I hope this is gonna happen soon, and I hope Nick, you're gonna get a chance to spend as much time as you want in Italy when this whole pandemic is gonna be over.
Yeah, I like I said, we're taking action on it. I was looking up at places to stay, and they're pretty cheap right now because of the situations that we're in. But I look forward to spending some time in Europe when I can.
That's amazing. Kirsty, feel free to go.
Oh, sure. Okay. So we were just chatting a little bit backstage before we started, and you mentioned that MIT was a place that you once had your sights on. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so being born with no legs, one arm, I wasn't very certain on which career path I would have. And that was also a big limiting belief for me. It was like, how am I going to be financially independent? How am I going to be independent in general? I can't work jobs that other kids work. And so at one small point in my life in high school, I had the goal to get accepted into MIT and do some sort of cybersecurity or do some sort of computer programming. Whether they had it or not, I wanted to go MIT because I knew how prestigious it was. And I shifted my goals, and I was like, wow, this is really difficult to get in. And so I went a different route, which was like pranking, which is totally different than going to college. Thanks for my parents for letting me do that. But yeah, so it was pretty amazing. I actually called my parents before this interview, and I said, you wouldn't believe it, I'm actually speaking at this fail event that MIT puts on, and it came full circle. So things happen as they should, and I'm glad that it came full circle, and I'm here, to speak to not only the fail people, but as well as the MIT and all the students as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So sorry, Kirsty. Sorry, go.
I was just curious. I mean, as I think that, MIT is aspirational, but we also live in a frozen tundra. I was wondering where you're calling us from today.
I'm calling in from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay.
But I grew up the majority of my life in New Jersey. And so, yeah, I was a kid from New Jersey, wanted to go to MIT.
Well, now you definitely have the warmer spot to be in, I would say, for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I think Francesco said maybe one day I'll get an honorary student. I'll be able to go sit in on a lesson and feel like I'm part of the MIT community.
I was exactly about
I-
to say that you're very welcome to come anytime. And I'm pretty sure that there's going to be so many students that are also watching right now that can contact you afterwards and like offering you some sort of collaborations that you can brainstorm on doing some very cool tech stuff in cybersecurity. I heard you're interested in that. We'll find a way. We'll find a way for sure.
Great.
All right. Well, Nick, we wanted to kick off by handing the floor to you and asking you to tell us a bit about yourself and a little bit about your perspective on failure. So
yeah,
the floor is
absolutely.
yours.
So failure is a great friend of mine. And so, being born with no legs, one arm, at first the doctors classified me with hand-heart syndrome, as Christy said. And hand-heart syndrome is a super rare genetic disorder that either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. And so at the time of my birth in 1996, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And out of the 12, 8 of those babies have passed away due to undeveloped organs. And so, they gave my parents the verdict: your baby boy has about a 30% chance to live. And my parents made a massive promise. And the promise is extremely important. They promised each other that they were going to focus on the 30% chance of me living rather than the 70% chance of me dying. And the reason being, my friends, is because focusing on the negative will never serve you, as well as the way that the brain works is what you focus on, you will get more of, or what you focus on will expand. And so, in our life, majority of human beings, we tend to focus on what we don't have. We tend to focus on the things that we can't control, and we tend to focus on the past and all the bad things that we did in the past. And so there needs to be a shift in our focus. But the way that my parents, raised me was very unique, and it sculpted me into the man I am today. And what I mean by that is they sat me down at an early age and they said, Nick, you're born with no legs or an arm, and the world's not going to stop for you. The world's not going to adapt to you. You're going to have to adapt to the world. You have to figure out how to do things Nick's way. And so from an early age, my parents sat me down, they put my clothes in front of me and said, figure it out. And they give me verbal suggestions, and I try to put my clothes on. I get so pissed off because I couldn't do it. And then I finally was able to learn how to put my shirt on, clearly, because I got one on today in this call. And then my next challenge came, and that was a challenge of food. So my mom put me in a high chair, and she put some waffles there with a spoon and said, you know what time it is? Figure it out. You got to do it on your own. And the reason why this is so important, and which goes in such alignment with what we're talking about today, is my parents doing that. What they were doing was they cultivated an empowering relationship with failure and rejection for me. So from an early age, I knew everything. I didn't think failure was bad. I just knew that it was inevitable. I knew that I was going to fail at everything that I attempted at if I wasn't good at it. And so, failure is the best friend for me. I lean into failure because I know on the other side of failure, massive personal growth is going to be taking place. But in school, in business, in the real world, if you have a bad relationship with failure and rejection, the first time you experience failure, you're going to run, or you're going to crumble, or you're going to think this is the end. And so what's really important is the quality of the questions we ask ourselves in those moments. And so I want you to remember this: the quality of your life comes down to the quality of the questions you ask yourself on a day-to-day basis. And what I mean by that is your brain is a problem-solving mechanism. And so, for example, say I fell down, or say we failed a test, or whatever it may be, the majority of people would want to ask, why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? Why am I not smart enough? And when you ask a bad question, your brain's going to give you a terrible answer. But when you ask an empowering question, when you ask a question of, what can I learn from this? What can I pull from this situation? Who did I become in that hard moment? Now your brain is going to answer all the empowering questions that you asked. And so in the moment of failure, in the moment of rejection, in the moment of a trial or a problem or a challenge, ask yourself the powerful question, what did I learn from this? So you're able to extract it from the failure and turn that massive failure into a massive win. And then before I end off and we can transition, there's a quote that I live by Nelson Mandela. And he says, in life, I don't lose. I only win or learn. And when you realize that failure is your best friend and you have to lean into it and you have to learn from it, then you're not going to run away from it. But most importantly, you're going to realize that even in the past, all the uncomfortable things you went through in your past, whether it was the divorced parents, whether it wasn't the best childhood, whatever it may be, when you find the gift in every situation, you'll realize that the world is happening for you and not to you. That's the difference between someone who's a victim and someone who's victorious. A victim says, why me? And a victor says, try me.
That is a wonderful, that quote from Nelson Mandela, I immediately wrote it down so I could like pin it up on my wall. In life, I don't lose, I win or learn. Like, I feel like if I could carry that with me at all times, I would succeed a lot more, or at least I would go through life with like a more positive mindset. That's one to like ingrain in my brain. So thank you so much for that one.
You got it.
So when you think about success or recovering from setbacks, what do you think has been more influential? Has it been the power of your own mindset, which is clearly substantial, or is it support from those around you?
That's a great question. I think it's a combination of both. But most importantly, it's like, listen to this. Anyone can come in and give you the strategies, the techniques, the mechanics on how to pass school, how to be successful. But at the end of the day, if you don't have your psychology right, if you don't have your mindset, you'll only get so far. And I'll prove it to you. Everybody here knows how to lose weight, right? We put less food in this hole, we move our bodies a little bit more, and we lose some weight. But why doesn't anyone do it? Why don't you follow through? Why don't you go to the gym? Why don't you stick to your routine? Why don't you stick to your diet? What gets in the way? Your psychology. And so I'd say that it's the constant, never-ending improvement of harnessing my brain and the way the brain works. And the reason why that's important is because your brain is thousands of years old. We all have the same brain. Some are bigger and smaller than some, right? But we all have the same brain, and it's thousands of years old. And your brain is the survival brain, which means 1,000 years ago, your brain was solely designed to keep you alive from the saber-toothed tiger that's coming to kill you and your family in your cave. Good news in 2020, well, who knows? 2020 could bring us some crazy things, but there's no more saber-toothed tiger coming to kill you and your family. But your brain is still solely designed to keep you in a survival state. And so your brain literally only focuses on your weaknesses, your failures, your insecurities, and all the things that you don't like about yourself. That's why it's important to harness your brain and be able to train your brain to see the good in every situation, to find the gift in every situation, to fill up with those emotions, because if you don't, your brain will take control of you. Now, with the community and the accountability, I think accountability is one of the most overlooked superpowers that humans have. And the reason being is because there's a statement I want you to write down. It's called proximity is power. It's from the big man, Tony Robbins. Proximity is power. And what that means is if you hang around people that have low standards, it's only a matter of time before you start lowering your own standards. And on the other side of the pendulum, when you hang out with people that have high standards, it's only a matter of time when you raise your own standards, right? And so accountability is extremely important, but also surrounding yourself with people that are in a growth mindset, surrounding yourself with people that are positive and not negative, because we can all agree that we have vampires and energy givers, energy, people that are giving us energy. And we don't want to surround ourselves with people that are sucking our energy. We want to surround ourselves with people that are elevating us. And so the analogy that I like to use for your community is who's in your front row of life? Who's in your front row of life? And the people in your front row of life should be people that are hyping you up, pushing you, loving on you, and expecting more of you because they know that you have more. And then what's really hard is sometimes it's some of our closest family and friends that may not see our vision. They may not align with our growth. And I'm not necessarily saying you have to cut your family and friends off. But what I'm saying is you can do what I call love from afar. And what that means is people that aren't, supporting your journey or aren't elevating you, you just don't give them all your energy. You get to a certain point in your life, some learn it earlier than others, that your time and your energy are your two most valuable assets. The reason being because we don't get them back. And so at some point in your life, you realize, I need to be very conscious of the people that I'm hanging around because my time and energy is extremely important. And if these people aren't serving me and elevating me to the next level, I need to cut them off. And so I think it's a combination of psychology, but most importantly, your environment is everything. We are products of our environment. And that's why it's extremely important to hang around a community like Fail of people that are like-minded, growth oriented, and ready to take it to the next level.
You know, there is, I have to mention, because when you said it, it just like fired this thing in my mind. You talked about energy vampires, just that idea of someone who like sucks everything out of the room. And I wanted to share with you that in Britain, we have a phrase called a banter vampire. Do you guys know what a banter vampire is?
No.
So a banter vampire is a person who kills all the good banter when you're at a party. You know, that person that just sort of just brings the energy down. So maybe it's the same kind of thing. I want to bring you banter vampire as a gift from my country to yours. So
Thank you. I like it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I mean, Nick, you gave us so many inputs, and I think I have at least 10 questions that are follow-up questions that I want to ask you. But one thing that you said really resonated with me, and it's about the standards, okay? The people you surround yourself with. And I do agree that surrounding yourself with people that are lower standards than you is detrimental, because sooner or later you become lazier. You just move towards that type of new standard that is not, it's definitely not giving you anything good. It's not helping you, right? So, but also there's another point that I wanted you to, if you can share something about it. Like when you compare yourself with somebody that his or her standard is way bigger than yours, like it's something, let's say if I compare myself with Usain Bolt in running, I would totally feel bad like now, because I cannot run as fast as him, not even close, right? So what is the right way of approaching this, aiming towards getting better over time without harming your self-esteem and who you are, and by paying attention that step by step you can become Usain Bolt, but you don't need to be Usain Bolt tomorrow. And now can you work on your mindset by moving step by step towards that final goal and final achievement?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a pandemic for us. You think COVID's a pandemic, but the comparison epidemic is even worse. And so what that means is, throughout Instagram and social media, we're constantly comparing our lows of our lives to the highs that you see on Instagram, which is a highlight reel. And so comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. And so if you're comparing yourself and it's bringing you negative emotions, then you need to switch the way that you're comparing. So if, for example, me, I think I'm one of the best speakers in the world, and I'll always believe that. But how try to compare myself to 60-year-old Tony Robbins, who's been doing it for 45 years, 50 years, right? Since he's been a young kid. So how dare me? But that doesn't stop me from getting in proximity of him and learning, so he can condense decades into years for me, or decades into days. And so comparison, you can compare people on, their skill sets and the very things that they're great at. But what you also have to realize is the only thing that's standing in between you and that person is they dedicated their whole life to their craft.
That's true.
And the only difference between you and that person is they've been putting the work in way longer than you have, whether you want to admit it or not, right? And so comparison is great as long as it's bringing you inspiration and motivation. If you find yourself being brought down by comparing, you're doing the wrong comparing. And then the reason why it's important for, the Usain example, I'm definitely not comparing myself to Usain because I got no legs. I'm not running as fast as him, right? But the reason why we look up to people like that is because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to make it smoother. So what does that mean? Find people who have the results that you want in whatever industry you're in, whether that's school, business, life, relationships, health. Find someone who has the results that you want and model them. Study them. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? What did they do when they were this old? And the reason why that's so important is because time and energy, two most valuable assets. If you study someone who's a master, they will condense their whole journey into years and days for you. And I'm always willing to invest in someone that can collapse time for me because it's my most valuable asset. And so I think to sum up the question is compare when it's an inspiring compare, like you get inspired, you get motivated, you get fired up because you're comparing yourself to someone that's a little bit further than you. But if you're finding yourself comparing yourself to others and it's making you feel negative, be gentle with yourself, because realize most likely we only see their current success. We don't see the journey. We don't see the ups and downs, how many times they failed, right? It's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. And so take a sense of comfort in that we're all on our journeys. And at the end of the day, trust me, in business and in life, there is no set destination where you're like, I win. this is it. I made enough money, or I'm successful enough. I'm going to quit and play video games for the rest of my life. There's no set destination. And so when you can fall in love with the journey of who you're becoming, then I think it's a little bit more sustainable and you won't go down that negative path. But yeah, there's a big difference between comparison in the right way, comparison in the wrong way. And don't get caught up in the social media where everyone's posting their highlight reels when their life isn't that perfect.
I mean, Nick, this is exactly how Fail started, to be honest. It's really about creating a platform where we share a more realistic version of who we are, and also, you know, setbacks and the difficulties and failures that we had, because we were exactly in that moment of our life when we created Fail, like in early 2018, because we were just comparing with a lot of, you know, social media stuff, work presentations that never show what went wrong, and just, you know, the only one result that worked, and it make it seems like, oh, everything is cool. I didn't have any problems. So you got it right. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Can I add something, if you don't mind?
Of course you can.
Because it's a great example. It's a great example because of school and education, is that a lot of the times our limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves come from, you know, our childhood, the way that we were treated. And so, for example, like I myself, I didn't think I was a great student. That was my belief. But the truth was that I learned differently than most. Right. And so say, for example, right, like us three are in a classroom and we all took a quiz and we're all sitting next to each other. We all get our pages back and my page looks terrible. Like there's red marks everywhere. Like, you know, all the kids, you know what I'm talking about. And then Christy and Francesco's page looks great. And I look to my left and I look to my right. I'm like, wow, like, what did I do wrong? Right now, there's two ways that teacher can go about that situation. One, which usually this is how we were treated. They say, yeah, you bombed the quiz. Like you got to work harder. Like you got to study harder. And that kid's like, wow, like I'm dumb, or I'm not a good student. They start stemming beliefs. But if the teacher came up, excuse me, one second. If the teacher came up and said, hey, Nick, don't tell anyone else, but the reason why you have so many marks on your test is because you're really smart, and I want to grade you a little bit more stern than the rest. Now, what kind of belief does that kid have? He's leaving the room and he's like, oh my God, the teacher's looking at me a little bit closer. I must be really smart. And do you see what that belief does? And so, my friends, we have limiting beliefs. All humans have limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not loved enough. I'm not smart enough, pretty enough. I don't have the resources. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm not smart, whatever it may be. But realize they're all BS, and they were formed from somewhere in your childhood. And the quicker that you can stem where those beliefs come from, you can squash them and realize the truth about you. And so I hope this helps us in the sense of, one, I didn't think I was a good reader, and I didn't think I was a good student. But the bottom line is I learned differently. And now I've also changed my relationship with books, in the sense I don't look them as books, but when I read books, I put them up on my wall and they look like trophies, because I'm like, man, I got to switch my relationship with learning and reading, and learn something that I'm actually passionate about, and maybe I'll follow through in it. So if you think you're not a good student, you're not good enough, or, you know, you have these certain beliefs, just realize that they stem from somewhere, and that's not the real you. And then, you know, get cleared on who the real you is. Self-reflect on all your great moments and all the times where you crush tests and you crush school, and you realize that you're not as bad as you think you are. That's your brain.
You know, when you gave that example of a test, like I had this visceral memory just sparked in my head that I think when I was, I think when I was, I'm trying to think how old I was. I must have been about 9 or 10 in math class, when our teacher would call roll call. She would start off by giving us a 10-question mental arithmetic every morning. And I was terrible at it. Like, I cannot think on my feet with numbers, not my thing. But then when she called the roll call, instead of saying like, here, miss, you had to say the number that you got out of 10 on the test. So if you got 0 right, you had to say 0 in front of a whole room full of people. And it was like, I mean, honestly, even thinking about it now, like I feel myself
feel it.
Yeah, it's one of the most anxiety-ridden memories I have. And, you know, I was 9 years old. I really should be over it by now, but like that's exactly a way to, like, these sort of things should be reframed. And then also thinking about school just in general, like school is a tough place. And you've talked a lot in some of the speech that you've given about the struggles you went through when you were in school. And, we all know that kids can be incredibly cruel. So how can people be better allies? And like, how can we raise the next generation of kids to be better allies in school?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the one word that screams out to me, and the reason why it screams out to me, is because this was like my breakthrough word this past year, and it's compassion. If people had more compassion in the world, we'd have a better place. And so what that means is, it takes someone who's done a lot of work on themselves, a lot of inner work on themselves, to like say someone's making fun or say someone's, not being very nice, to have compassion and just love on them and feel bad for them, because they're probably struggling with their own inner stuff if they're trying to lash out on other people. Now, I have a quote on my bicep. It says, "You laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at you because you're all the same." And that's not a quote, and that's not me making fun of people with all their arms and legs and stuff. But what I'm saying is, you'll realize at some point in your life, sooner or later, or maybe right now is your moment, is that the best thing, the most attractive thing you could be, the sexiest thing, is your authentic, transparent self. And the reason why that's so important is because when you show up authentic, when you show up transparent, and you show up you, verse or God, whatever you believe in, gives you a very clear indicator of who likes you for you and who doesn't like you for you. And so I'll give you a great example. My body, for the majority of my life, I thought it was the biggest curse, the most disgusting thing that could happen to me. Being born with no legs and one arm. Why me? Why me? And especially in middle school and high school, I hated it. And then I realized, I reframed it, as you mentioned, Christy. I reframed it. And I said, wait, if a girl doesn't want to be my girlfriend because I have no legs and one arm, if this kid doesn't want to be my friends because I have no legs and one arm, if this person doesn't want to do business with me because I have no legs and one arm, well, wait. Maybe this disability is actually working for me, and it's acting as an authentic filter, and it's filtering out the type of women and people that I don't want in my life anyway. How empowering is that? When you change your story, you change your life. And so we are in control of the meaning that we give things, whether it's your body, whether it's your beliefs about school. We're in control of the meaning. And so I was able to find the gift in my body and realizing, like, wow, if I just play full out, if I be Nick, whenever I go, if people like me, these are my type of people. If people don't like me, that's not my type of people. And so I know it sounds so cliche, but the bottom line is, be yourself, and you'll know very quickly of who your friends are and who not your friends are.
Yeah, Nick, I totally agree with you, and I totally relate to this. Like, changing your mindset, it can be is the most powerful weapon we have. And also really selecting people, also jobs. Like, jobs is the same thing, like you said, doing business with people. If you don't feel like you can be yourself in a job interview, in a meeting with colleagues, etc., you're probably in the wrong place. Like, it means that people don't make you feel comfortable. They don't make yourself being who you are, and how can eventually they even value you for what you bring on the table, right? It's just a very unpleasant situation to be, but I think changing the mindset as you did can really be your best ally eventually. It's not just people, as you said, it's really also your mindset. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I, sorry, if I add on real quick, I think oftentimes too is we're seeking validation from external. We're seeking like, we want to fit in. I want the girls to like me. I want to be in that friend group. I want the teacher to like me. And we seek validation. And remember, it comes back to our beliefs of like, I'm not loved enough. I'm not good enough. I want to be loved. I want to be cared for. I want to be seen. And so humans will do anything to be loved and be seen. But at the end of the day, if we can first seek validation from ourselves, then the external will come. You see, most people are seeking validation and trying to build relationships with other people when they don't even have an amazing relationship with themselves. And so that's when my life started to change, when I found ways that I can fall in love with myself a little bit more, be more confident, have more self-integrity, love on myself, self-care, like that stuff. And then the other stuff comes. But at the end of the day, like, you seeking external validation from these people, you're never going to fill that gap. The only way you to fill the void in your life is if you truly love yourself, which sounds corny, but the most important relationship you have within yourself, the most important relationship you have is yourself. And so that's why I've done so much work, because maybe at some point I didn't have the friends. Maybe at some point I didn't have the accountability group, but I knew that if I love myself, then that would translate into better relationships, better quality of life, better opportunities. Because at the end of the day, if I don't have my stuff right, how dare me try to invest in a relationship when I don't even have my own stuff?
We definitely spend more time with ourselves than with anybody else. If we don't like ourselves, it's going to be an issue.
Especially now.
I agree. Especially now.
Yeah.
Especially now. But I mean, Nika, I had another. I wanted to hear your input here on something you said. Like when you were like middle school, elementary school, but also high school, like kids can be really terrible. Okay, like there's a lot of bullies around, and something that we discussed with Ethan Fisher, which was another speaker like a couple of months ago, is that sometimes too often the bad guys at school end up being the cool guys. Okay, people that other kids look at, and I think it would be amazing if we can bring something to change this mindset and make not the bad guy, but something else, someone else, being the cool guy, the people that others look at in like with admiration. See, I want to be like that person, right? So, and I made a joke that is like, we should make all nerds, like all the nerds at MIT, like us, being the cool guy, so that we become the cool guy, and the world would be a better world. But I want to hear what are your thoughts about how can we change that mindset, especially when we're super young, and what we can tell kids, and who they need to look at, and make a leader a good leader.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think like during high school, college, like it's not the real world yet. You're not in the real world yet, but you're getting into the real world slowly. But the bottom line is, like, in the real world, like, the only people that are hating on winners are losers. And the only time you'll never find a winner hating on another winner. And so people that are bullying, or people that are talking smack, or like fooling around and that stuff, like it only works for so long, my friends. And so, I remember I was the nerdy kid in high school. I'm like, when are girls going to think financial freedom is attractive? And when are girls going to think that, I have a vision for my life? When is this attractive, right? And it didn't really work in high school, my friends. Sorry to tell you, it didn't work. But I got into the real world, and I realized that when you get into the real world, when you're a true leader is genuine. A true leader is compassionate. A true leader loves people, serves people at their highest level. They want to give. They want to be more. They want to serve more. A true leader isn't hating on other winners. And oftentimes, like I said, it's very important for you to realize that if people are lashing out on you or making jokes and being the class clown, they're craving significance. They're craving the spotlight. They're craving the reaction that they want people to get when they make fun. They want the backlash, right? And so it's kind of like a fire. Don't fuel the fire. Focus your energy on you, what's in front of you, what's extremely important. And in the end, you're going to win, because losers don't hate on winners, right? And so like that's just what blows my mind, is so many people are trying to bring people down. Those people don't last in the real world, my friends, I promise you. But the people that do last are the people that show up and they want to help people. They want to serve people. They want to be genuine. They want to show up and bring forth solutions. These are the people that really make it in the end, because that stuff doesn't fly in the real world. And if you're a butthead in the real world, like, you're not going to get hired. No one's going to like you. I won't have a great girlfriend or a great boyfriend. It's just not sustainable. And so maybe now it's a little bit tough and you think you're the nerd and no one likes you, but I promise you, you will win in the end. Just remember Nick a couple years from now. You're like, he was right. He was so right.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I think that's a positive message. I also think, I'm pro nerd, so I'm all about it. But you mentioned a bit in your intro that, and this really stuck with me when I heard you say it, was that when you were born, the doctors gave this list of like all the things that you cannot do, that you will not be able to do. And now you have this platform where you can show people all the things you can do. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, what does that? How does that make you feel every day?
Yeah, it makes me feel amazing, because at the end of the day, despite whether you have no legs, one arm, all of your body parts, there are people in your life that are going to cast their limiting beliefs on you. You can't be a wrestler. You're not smart enough. What do you think you can get accepted in that program? Like, let's be real. Let's play it safe. We've all heard these type of things. And there's two choices. You can either let the outside noise affect you, or you can let it drive you. And for me, that stuff was always been my biggest motivation. I think I had a chip on my shoulder since the doctors gave that list, right? Because I wanted to prove them wrong, but most importantly, prove to myself that someone else isn't going to write my story. I'm going to write my story. And the bottom line is that, hey, maybe I won't be successful at all the things that they said that I couldn't do, but I'm going to attempt. I'm going to attempt and I'm going to try. And why that's so important is because at the end of your life, right now, fast forward to the end of your life, you're on your deathbed, all your family and friends are there, and they're sending you off into wherever you think you're going to go. You want to look back on your life and you want to have more remember whens than less what ifs. Meaning you don't want to have any regrets. And I know I don't want to have any regrets. And so despite what people say to me, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, I'm always going to try. I'm going to play full out because I much rather be in the trenches, on the field, grinding, falling on my face, failing, getting up over and over again, becoming a different person than being those losers that we're talking about that are on the sideline saying, you can't do this and I can't do this and you're not good enough. And what thing they're on the sideline. That's what you'll notice is the majority of people that are casting your limiting beliefs on you, they aren't really fulfilling themselves. They're not living out the dreams and their goals and their ambitions that they want to do. And so they want to bring other people down. And so I would just like for you to connect with your future self. You know, do it for your future self, do it for your future family, and do it for that moment at the end of your life where you're like, wow, I played full out. I tried everything and I don't have any regrets and I can pass peacefully. That really matters to me.
Absolutely. This is fantastic. Everything you say resonates too much with me. So I think and you say it perfectly. So I don't need to add anything to it. It's just great. Nick, there is something that you do and that I know scares so many people out, like which is speaking in public. Okay, we had a whole event around speaking in public with Matt Abrams, and he's an amazing speaker. He's a professor at Stanford, and he was telling us a lot of different things. But I wanted to go through your journey, and give an advice to all the people at MIT that need to present their research, need to present their work, need to pitch their business, or whatever they have, next Google startup idea. Can you share something about how to prepare for becoming a great speaker? And I know you spoke in front of thousands of people in huge stages. That's terrifying for most of us. So can you tell us a little bit more and how we can prepare to become an effective speaker?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So in a brotherly way, from my brothers to my brothers and my brothers to my sisters, if you're feeling anxiety or you're feeling stressed about a presentation or going to speak, it's most likely your lack of preparation. When we're prepared, we're confident. And when we're confident, we can influence. You see, sales or influence or presentation is just a transfer of energy. You see how certain I am when I talk. I'm confident when I talk. If I came on here and I was like, my name's Nick, and no one's going to listen to me, right? And so sales and influence is a transfer of energy. It's a transfer of certainty, and it's a transfer of confidence. And when you're confident in your work and you've done the studying, you've done the work, you've done the presentation over again, you practice it, you're going to go out and flow. Now, the other thing that gets in the way, though, is a lot of the times we have fear of, what are people going to think of me if my hair looks bad? Or what are people going to think of me if I mess up and I stutter? Well, you're focused on the wrong thing. If you were solely focused on serving and and translating your message to the people, you wouldn't be so caught up in what happens if I mess up. What are they going to think of me? That means you're focused on the wrong thing. So make sure you're just focused on serving and giving your presentation. No one cares if you mess up. They're probably scared. They're probably like, thank God he or she went because I don't want to go. So you're already doing them a favor, right? So they probably love you. But remember, it's a transfer of certainty, enthusiasm, and confidence. So be prepared because people are going to know that. And then lastly, it's a muscle. Just like everything, confidence is a muscle, self-integrity is a muscle, speaking is a muscle, gratitude is a muscle. And so the more that you exercise the muscle, you will get better at it. And if you don't use it, you lose it. And so that's why most people, they've probably done one or two, live speaking events for college, and then they never did it again, and they get really scared about it. So exercise that muscle, be certain, and the separation is in the preparation.
I have an important pitch next week, so I'm going to follow your advice.
I think one of the things you said there that I think is one of the best pieces of advice is just to exude confidence. Like if If you look confident, you will feel confident. And we've all been in the room with someone who looks nervous and it makes you feel uncomfortable. And so if you can go in with that, like you said, like go in with that belief in yourself, or like know that you have it, like then that will come across in how you speak.
Yes, absolutely.
Just the best advice. So thank you for that.
You got it.
All right, so we are going to move on to the Q&A part of our event. So just as a reminder, whatever platform you're watching this on, you can submit questions to Nick and we'll see them all. But to kick it off, we had a poll today on social media, speaking of the evils of social media, where we gave 3 anecdotes that you had suggested and then asked people to vote on the one they most wanted to hear from you. And they were meeting the rock, talking at the Tony Robbins Foundation Summit, or amputating your arm. So the winner was amputating your arm. So can you tell us a bit about what that process was like?
Yeah. Wow. So I figured that'd win because it's very aggressive. They're like, what do you mean amputate your arm, right? And so when I got into high school, my older brother, he had passed away, but my older brother was a wrestler, and I'm from New Jersey, so all my best friends were wrestlers, and I was looking for the secret sauce, and that secret sauce was confidence. And I was a kid that thought you're either born with confidence or you didn't have it. I was like, I wasn't born with legs. I don't got confidence. Where does this thing come from? And like I've just mentioned, what I've realized is confidence is a skill. And how you accumulate or how do you acquire confidence is you actually follow through on the promises that you make within yourself. It's extremely important. And so I got into high school and my best friends were like, Nick, you always tell people to try new things. Why don't you try wrestling? And I said, I can't, my arm. And this arm, it looks like a potato now, but it used to look like a chicken wing. And the reason why it looked like a chicken wing is because this arm was 5 inches longer than it is now, and my bone was growing faster than my skin. So it was super sensitive, and the bottom line is if I would have hit my arm hard enough, my bone would have came through my skin. And so Nick being solution-oriented Nick, I was thinking about all the ways that I could become a wrestler because I knew it would instill confidence in me. I'd be with my friends more, 16, 17-year-old kid. Maybe the girls will like me because I'm an athlete. This is my thought process. And so I came home and I said, I waited for both my parents to get home and I sat them down and I said, Mom and Dad, I want to become a wrestler. And my mom was like, oh no, Nick, God forbid. Wrestling's the most physical sport. What are you going to do if you hit your arm, your bone comes through your skin? What are you going to do then? And in under 10 seconds, I looked at my parents and I said, can we cut my arm off? And they said, what? And I said, yeah, can we cut it off? And they said, well, Nick, the right word is amputate. You're so aggressive with your words. And I said, okay, can we use, can I amputate my arm? Can we do something about it? And they said, is this something that you really want to do? And I said, absolutely. And so my sophomore year of high school, my parents went ahead and scheduled the appointment for me to amputate my arm, and I became a wrestler. Now, just the lesson behind this is don't go cut off your arm if you don't have to. But what I'm saying is, what are you willing to sacrifice to be successful?
Yeah.
What are you willing to sacrifice to be that student, to be the valedictorian, to ace that test, to ace that class? What are you willing to sacrifice? Also, hopefully it's not a limb like me, but what are the very beliefs that you need to cut off that no longer serve you? And you know what they are. I'm not good enough. I don't have the resources. My parents never got into college. How dare me? All these things that get in the way. What do you need to cut off that no longer serve you? And then the third, like I had mentioned, is who are the very people in your life that no longer serve you or elevate you that you need to cut off, which is one of the most difficult things. But that amputation process led me to having a better quality of life, joining the wrestling team, becoming a varsity wrestler, and instilling more confidence in me so I can go ahead and do more amazing things because I decided and I sacrificed something for something even bigger.
And also through that, I remember you told me that you understood that you could help others. It was through that experience, through inspiring others, being a wrestler, that somebody came to you and told you, I can actually, that it was so inspiring. And say, oh, Mark, actually, with what I do, I can inspire others. And that's what you've been doing since that day, I guess.
Yeah. I wasn't the best wrestler. I came off the mat after getting my butt kicked this one time, and this lady came up to me crying. I'm like, oh God, what did I do wrong? And she said, Nick, I want to thank you. I said, for the butt kicking, you're welcome, for the entertainment. And she said, no. She said, my daughter's over there on the sideline, and she never wanted to do a sport. She never wanted to do an extracurricular activity, but seeing you out there, she wants to try all these things. I want to thank you. And a light bulb went off in my head. A few light bulbs went off in my head. The first one was, wow, I feel this little fuzzy and feeling inside called fulfillment, and I want more of that. And how you get fulfillment is you contribute and you grow. Those are the two very things. I want you to write that down. The two very things you need to do is contribute and grow. That's how you can live a happy, fulfilled, sustainable life. The second thing I realized is that my suffering stops once I serve something greater than myself. Instead of focusing on how I can meet my needs and everything's about me, maybe I can shift my focus on how I can help others, and it'll make me feel good. And I want to do more of that. And then the third and final thing that I realized is the one thing that I hated about myself, my body, the most disgusting thing, turned into my greatest gift and my biggest form of influence to connect with people like you. And so if you're up for it, write down this quote. It's from my man Tony. Is our problems become gifts once we learn from them. But yeah, that's my wrestling story. So for all that voted and tuned in, I appreciate you so much.
I could see why it won. I mean, it's just one of the most incredible ideas, right? But I think what really sticks with me is that you were really young when you made that decision, right? It's a lot of like presence of mind to decide to do that when you did. And so, I'm going to have an incomplete list now, but like from what I've seen on the internet, you wrestle, you skateboard, you snowboard, you bodybuild, you climb. I've seen you playing baseball, I've seen you scuba diving. That's possibly an incomplete list, but like, is there a sport you've yet to try or an adventure you'd like to go on? Like, what's like the next thing in your mind from on that end of things?
Yeah, skydiving's on the list. So skydiving's definitely on the list. I've swam with sharks in Hawaii. So that was pretty crazy. But the reason why that's so important is not to say, hey, look at my list, it's amazing. But if you don't try, you'll never know. You may be missing out on a passion of yours. And, snowboarding, for me to, go through the trials and tribulations and have an adaptive snowboarding is like running for me. It's like a new sport. I love it. I love to go snowboarding. And now it's one of my new loves. But I would never have experienced it or felt that passion if I didn't try. That's why it's extremely important to fail and try things, because you'll never know what really pulls you and drives you. And so I think skydiving's on that list. I've climbed the Great Wall of China. That was pretty cool. So I think skydiving, and I think on my list, like I said, I want to learn Italian. I want to get dropped off in Italy and just learn Italian and be able to speak it. I think that's one of my top goals above skydiving.
I have also seen a video of you in a Cubs shirt, keeping this with sports just for a minute, bear with me. So the Chicago Cubs, a baseball team who famously went more than 100 years without a World Series title, and then until they won in 2016. And there's a reason I know that. I live with someone who's a Chicago Cubs fan. So anyone who really, really loves a sports team, like that can be a whole roller coaster, right? There are wins, there are losers, and you feel all the highs and you feel the pain when they lose. Like, is that something that you think can help us learn to manage our own reactions to our wins and our failures?
Yeah, I think it can be. I think humans, we have been conditioned to expect. And so, for example, nowadays, look at us on this program where you can get access to Nick, Christy, and Francesco, like, right anywhere in the world instantly. You can get Uber Eats and DoorDash your favorite food immediately. You can go on Netflix and find your favorite show immediately. And so I think as humans, we've been conditioned to expect quick. That's why if people expect and they build a business and they don't be successful in the first 1-2 years, they freak out. They're like, why is it not working? Well, it's like, because you expect the results. The same with a test. You may be expecting 100 or expecting to pass with flying colors, but you may need to do it over and over again a little bit more. And so when you can drop your expectations for appreciations, your life will change in that moment. And so if we can appreciate what we have in front of us rather than expect things, you won't get hurt and you won't get your hopes up and for something that's not going to happen. But I think that we should just lead with appreciation rather than expectation, and that'll help a lot of us.
That's wonderful. We have another audience question for you now. It is, how do you overcome your limiting beliefs? Like, what do you do when things are getting you down? How do you get past that?
Yeah, and so this is going to sound like some woo stuff, but I promise you it really works because I do this for a living. And so we were talking about this backstage, and one of my 1-minute rituals or my rituals I do anytime before I get on stage, a business meeting, whenever I need to get in state, I have affirmations or I have incantations. And so a lot of you may think affirmations are, in your head, you're going, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. And your brain's like, screw off, you're not happy, right? Those don't work. But what affirmations are and incantations are is you speaking out words or these lines, and I'll share with you mine, over and over again with emotion and driving it into you, into your nervous system, into your subconscious. So for example, I'll go slow in this, but my affirmations or incantations are, I'm a tactical speaker. I put that in there because when I first started, I had a limiting belief that I wasn't tactical enough. So, tactical speaker. I'm a force for good. I'm a student of the game, reminding me that I need to listen to everything with an open mind and drop my ego. I'm a student of the game. I am kind. Abundance flows through me. I am decisive because successful people make decisions fast, not slow. I'm decisive. I'm evolving I'm becoming the man I'm meant to be. And I am mastering the skill of influence. Now I'll do that over and over again with intensity, like literally, I'm not gonna do it on here, but like getting into it, hitting my chest, just getting in state. But also to take it to a next level is when we meditate. And I would prefer that y'all meditate in the morning, because there's specific states on your brain, and the door to your subconscious is called theta state. And you unlock or you open up theta state when you go into a deep meditation, preferably in the morning. And so when you're in a meditation, and you constantly are thinking about who you want to become, what are the attributes, what are you visualizing things, that stuff is way more powerful than you think, because visualization in itself, your brain can't decipher what's real and fake. Your brain can't decipher it. That's why I visualize the results before I have them. I visualize myself on stage before I'm there. So when I'm on stage, I'm like, I've already been here before. It's called neuron mirroring. And so if you can meditate and get into your subconscious and then take away all those bad beliefs, but the things that I said, like I am a force for good, I'm a student of the game, I'm a great student, I'm a great listener, I am present. If you do that over and over again, you become that. And so right now you're looking at a man who has built himself. I wasn't always this confident. I wasn't always this certain. I wasn't always this tactical. But I built myself over and over again through repetition. And so that is the way, is repetition. If you do the same things, think the same thoughts, do the same actions, and expect a different life, you're insane. That's Albert Einstein's definition of insanity. But if you have new thoughts, new actions, new feelings, now you have a new life.
And work hard on that, exactly, to become the person you're meant to be. Absolutely. And by the way, I want to thank Mimi Emmy for the question. So because it was her question, so just thank Mimi.
Thank you, Mimi.
We are, I'm sad to say, almost out of time. Nick, do you have any upcoming events or programs that you'd like to share, or where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd highly suggest you just take a picture of my name, because it's really long and you never remember it. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all that stuff. And honestly, what I do right now is I consult coaches to scale their business online. And so I'm a master at social media, helping people gain clientele and working anywhere in the world, especially now during this unprecedented time. But I also have, an inner circle if you want to elevate your proximity and hang out with me on a weekly basis. But you can find me anywhere. Just shoot me a message and it'll be either me or my team to get back to you. And like I said, I'm just extremely grateful for the opportunity to come and share some wisdom, because I'm a firm believer that you're one piece of knowledge, one handshake away, one perspective shift away, one breakthrough away from changing the trajectory of your life. And so if you listen to this with an open mind, if you wrote notes, I commend you for and I applaud you for playing full out, because you are doing more than the majority of humans who are probably on Netflix right now chilling. You're investing in yourself. So we appreciate you.
Thanks. And we also, and I'm speaking for the whole FAIL community and the whole MIT community, we want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being such a source of inspiration for us. Thank you for being that person that we look at to become a better version of ourselves tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. And this has just been incredible. And thank you for this gift. And I think since it's almost Christmas, and I think I can really call this a gift for us. And we are just extremely grateful. And we really hopeful. We hope that we will stay in touch with you, and we will do other great things together, because this is just amazing, just even talking to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Francesco, everybody that has been a part of this. And I look forward to seeing you in person after this crazy time passes. Sending love, virtual hugs.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right,
If you want
friends.
to speak Italian, just call me.
I'm in. Let's do it. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.